Acquiring equipment for the ADF is a challenging business. The military does a very difficult job, and it often requires equipment that's right at the cutting edge of technology to do it. Sometimes we can go to the world market and we can just buy the solution that we want. More often than not, the world market doesn't have quite what we want. When you factor into that the ADF often has equipment in service for 20, 30 or even 40 years, the idea that we can just go out and buy something that will do the job for that long gets more difficult to sustain. So what we have to do sometimes is to do development projects. But working out when we just buy off the shelf, when we do a development project, and how we manage that development project is a very tricky business, and that's what this paper is about. The first paper in this report by my ASPI colleague Mark Thomson looks at the applicability of risk assessment methodologies used in the financial and commercial sectors. When people are doing cost-benefit calculations, how much do I have to invest to get what return, and what level of risk is there involved, and what's the appropriate level of insurance against that risk. Those techniques are very useful when you have a quantifiable problem. Now the problem with defence is that a lot of it is not quantifiable. Defence is what we call a public good, and that is that it's something where the government puts some money in and the nation as a whole gets a return on that. But it's not a quantifiable return. You can't put a dollar value on security. But nonetheless, Mark comes to the conclusion that there are aspects of commercial methodology that do translate across into the defence sphere. We just need to be careful about how we apply them. The second paper in this report is my contribution. I look at the management of defence projects once the decision is made to go down the path of a development project. And we have a lot of data that tells us what tends to go wrong and what tends to go right with defence projects. We draw on several sources for the analysis in the paper. Dr. Gumley, the recently retired CEO of the Defence Material Organisation, has provided his thoughts, but we also look at what NASA does. And we've looked at some reports by the American government's Government Accountability Office, who have systematically gone through and worked out what needs to be done and when in order to have the best chance of success. The methodology that's described is called systems engineering. It's a way of rigorously identifying risk and managing it as best can be done. The trouble is with systems engineering, or any rigorous approach to project management, is you need technically competent people to run it. You need people with experience, and preferably people who've successfully delivered big projects in the past. Now those people are in short supply, not just within defence, but within the Australian economy as a whole. There's a noted skill shortage in that area. We've had a couple of reports issued over the last 18 months from the Government Audit Office here in Australia, and also the commissioned Rizzo report that found that defence has a shortage of skilled engineering people. And that makes it intrinsically difficult to do the rigorous systems engineering required to deliver successful project outcomes. How defence manages that will be a large contributor to the success or failure of future projects. My conclusion is that defence has to be judicious in the number of development projects that it takes on. Take the skilled people that it does have and apply them in critical mass to the biggest problems to be solved. That's the best approach. The third paper in the report is by Chris Jenkins, CEO of Thales Australia, one of Australia's leading defence contracting firms. Chris's view is that the industry of which he's a representative is an important part of the national defence capability, not only in providing equipment in the first place, but supporting it throughout its often long lifetime. Chris puts the view that defence industry capacity needs to be managed in the same way that the ADF manages its equipment. It's part of the business of providing for Australia's security that we have a viable and robust defence industry capacity. One of the things that we need to avoid is the boom and bust model, and that is where a contract is let, industry works up a skilled workforce, they produce something, they deliver it, and then that workforce disperses, waiting for the next contract to come along in 5, 10, 15 years' time. It's not a great way to manage a workforce. It's hard to maintain skills, it's hard to have continuity, it's hard to keep the corporate knowledge that's required to contribute to the defence skills base.